Hi, my name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans. I'm here with Daniel Costa, the visionary leader of the CalExit conferences. Today we're having CalExit Conference 12, 13?
Yep.
I think it's 13.
Yeah.
13. Okay, so that's significant because we've been here for a very long time, at least 10, 11 months we've been doing it, so a big amount of success, and the products are getting better. If anybody can watch the last one that we did, it was such a high production and everybody sounded so smart and right on key and talking. It was the best show we've ever done. Compare that to the one we did the first time. Wow, we've really grown. And I just wanted everybody to take a second, whenever you can, look at the first one we did and compare it to the one we just did. Production value, quality, timing, but also the speakers, intelligence, the ability to command control. That was displayed by everybody. When you watch that, I want everybody to get that was a team effort. That video came out because every single person was awesome. One person's off, blah, blah, blah. So just recognize where you're at and just recognize the ability of us to get ourselves to where we need to be. We can train ourselves. Sue, I'm seeing you out. You have changed and developed so much. And I point that out to let everybody, if you can grow to be a confident speaker on video, we can all grow. There's no challenge you have that's not going to be as difficult as Sue being able to speak intelligently and confidently on camera. And she can do it now. Watch her when she was there. Sue, I'm sorry to pick on you, but I don't want anybody thinking
You're
they can't
right.
learn.
You're right. Don't be sorry. If a lie can't hurt you and the truth shouldn't hurt you. If you're doing the best you can do and you're doing right things to the best of your ability and knowledge, then the truth shouldn't hurt you. And if something's a lie, why does it hurt you?
Thank you, Sue. I just want everybody to know that with these CalExit conferences, we're growing. And the CalExit conferences were a vision from Daniel Costa to do two things. One, develop on-air talent, which is happening, and two, to keep us in communication, which has been an overwhelming success. Those two strategic goals Daniel identified were problems. We need people to be better able speaking on TV, and we need everybody to know what everybody's doing. So we started taping conversations, and I got to tell you, I knew we had success when somebody was talking to Shankar, and Shankar was like, look, I'm working on this and this and that. And they go, why are you bothering me, telling me what you're doing? And he goes, well, you need to know. And they go, I already watched the CalExit conference, Shankar. I already know everything you're doing. And it was somebody who hadn't talked to Shankar in 3 months. They watched one conference. They knew everything that was going on. And they were caught up like this. That was Daniel's vision. He identified two problems, developed a solution, and stuck to it. And I backed him. And so I've been using Daniel as a showcase to let you all know, develop your visions and we'll make shit happen. And it'll be awesome. But the other thing is that today is very important for everybody. June 19th, there was a TV show called The Politician. Season 2, episode 1 literally came out about a day ago. They chose to open up this brand new TV show talking about California running
Stop.
America.
Cody.
So there's a TV show with Gwyneth Paltrow. It basically looks like a full-blown commercial talking about California needs to leave because we're a donor state and we don't share values. And they also said it's time for a divorce. The divorce phrase was literally the talking point developed by this movement. So all of our talking points have now gone to mainstream television with major Hollywood stars. And they made that commercial for us hardcore yesterday. So do you see what's happening? The concept is going mainstream at the same time that we're developing our talent pool to be able to speak on camera. The reason I've been pushing you all so hard is that the day's going to come where it's just going to be like 2016, and there's going to be so many cameras and so many people asking for direction and leadership and guidance. It will be overwhelming. We won't handle it well. But guess what? We're in a much better position. IC's really stepped up to organize. There's 12 people now who can sound intelligent on TV. There's multiple groups. We all kind of know each other. We have a communication structure. We were not there 2016, 2017. So when the next big awakening comes, we're going to be ready. And that's what I saw. That's why I pick on Sue. That's why I pick on you all. That's why I love these conferences. I sent you all the video. Recognize that we're there now. So the game has changed. We are in the mainstream acceptance of CalExit phase. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's supportive, but folks, they made an expletive commercial with all our talking points in the highest production you could do with the biggest TV star in the biggest way. We're there now. It's a matter of time. Best thing we can do is help move that along. Someone, and I got to point out, folks, that came from a Californian who's not in the movement. A non-CalExit Californian told me about that because they knew all the talking points. That person's closer to joining our movement than ever. I didn't make them do that. Life did. See what I'm getting at? Keep all your friends close because the big day's coming. Remember the show called 24? It was a spy show. It was this guy was an international spy and major famous actor, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
24 TV show. They had a black president. That was before anybody was talking about Obama. Dennis Hastert became famous for playing a distinguished African-American president. And then a few years later, here comes Obama. See where I'm getting at? They introduced the idea to you first, get you warmed up. So we've had the CalExit comic book. Now we've had a commercial, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, getting into the show. Daniel's going to take it from here. We're going to have introductions of new members, Jason Wright, Joe Payne, and Professor Williams. Daniel will lead that. That's based upon Joe Payne's suggestion. We're also going to do a presentation by Shankar about the water bill. And Daniel, I forgot to tell you, my bad, brother, but I also want to give Hannah about 5 minutes after Shankar to talk about her petition. So new members, hey, all new members, okay, great. Shankar, what are you doing? Hannah, what are you doing? And then we're going to go right into the vision statements. Okay, Daniel, so introduce the three people, interview them. Shankar, what are you doing? 5 minutes. Hannah, what are you doing? 5 minutes, and then vision statements. I'm going to turn it over to Daniel.
Okay. Greetings and salutations to all. Thanks for being here today. Let's start with William. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us what your views are on independent California and why you joined, and what is your passion? Hand it over to you, William.
Walter Williams.
Walter, you have two first names. It's very confusing. Walter, William, whichever it is, it's okay.
I've been called worse. Okay, so as I think most of you know, I have a PhD in history and anthropology from the University of North Carolina, and I've taught at 5 universities, taught American history, Civil War history, and Native American history. So those are the areas that I know best, and particularly on the Civil War. If people bring up a comparison with what happened when the South seceded in 1861, and to try to dismiss, oh, well, that won't be possible, it'll be the same result if California goes, I can answer that in great detail. So I want to have myself as a resource person in case those kinds of issues come up, which they will. And the other area is Native American history. And so certainly we're going to have the conference following this today on the question of Native Californians and return of land, which is certainly a crucial issue. And so I think that we ought to be coming up with a kind of a position paper statement on in consultation with Native California nations and tribes. So those would be the kinds of areas in particular that I think if I could provide some historical context or comparisons. But in my role as a writer, I published like 14 books and about 150 articles and served as an editor of scholarly journals. So I think that would be where I could make the most contributions in terms of writing. And I've been sending out, some of you have seen some of the points that I've been starting to think about and writing up in consultation with others and what I've been learning from these discussions. And so, you know, that would be the area that I would think I can make the most contributions. Unfortunately, I fell and broke my hip, so I'm kind of, I'm not able to travel. And so I am very grateful for these kinds of conferences so I can do this from home. But I'm enjoying my retirement in Palm Springs, so I'm ready to bring this part of the state along.
Great. Thanks, Walter. It's great to have you. You are definitely a big contribution to the movement. And don't worry, we'll come to you through video, so you don't have to move. Great to have you here. All right, so let's go next to on my screen, Jason. Jason Wright, you want to introduce yourself? I think you're muted. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
My apologies for all the motorcycles going by. It's always right when I unmute. So I was born and raised here in California, Northern California. I lived for most of my childhood in the old Gold Rush area, and have always really felt attached to California. Never really like hated America, just really, you know, my love is California. And I've been through some things that led me to needing to rely on the state having to take charge of me as a child. And, you know, it helped me to notice some things that are good and a lot of things that are flawed. And I, as a young adult, started to notice how there's kind of a general ineptitude through our overall governing system that doesn't really allow for certain key issues to be changed. And then I came across, you know, the whole CalExit movement when it started up last cycle, and realized, wow, this is a legal way to take back control so that we can actually invoke the changes that need to be made. Wow. And, you know, I spent a little bit of time away from the movement because of division and such, but I'm back now, and, you know, never stopped wanting CalExit, just had to take a little space. But, you know, now I'm really glad to be back, especially seeing, like, you know, how many different people there are getting involved and people that weren't involved before, you know, especially also, you know, being able to work together in this kind of lack of division now. It's nice.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Glad to have you back. As Californians, I think all of us, sometimes we take a little break, but we're always there, and we come back. So that's the important thing. So glad to have you. And I just want to tell everyone, if you have friends, you know, that feel the same way as you, bring them along. You know, have them see this, even if they're not completely convinced of it. Just have them come on the videos and check it out, and just they don't have to talk. They can just see what's going on. And That way we can grow the movement. So thanks a lot. So now I'm going to go to Joe Payne. Glad to have you here also. I know you were at the last meeting, and if you could introduce yourself once again, just for people that weren't here possibly last time.
Sure. So my name's Joe. I grew up in the Bakersfield area. I grew up in a small town right outside of Bakersfield. My political alignment, growing up in a small town that I did, I think it kind of forced me to be on the right. I grew up very Republican. My family was very Republican. And as I grew up, my views changed, especially in my 20s. I went from being very far right to kind of going in the opposite direction. I ended up in the Tea Party when it first started, but after that first Tea Party that happened, I kind of just fell out of it. It really, I think it went in a different direction than what I really wanted to go into. But and my views changed. Obama, when he first got into office, I really fought against him. I did not like him, and it didn't have anything to do with race. It was just because of his views. I was not quite there. I was still kind of on the right at that time. But by the time he left office, I didn't want him to leave. He really, really changed me around. I ended up registering as a Democrat so that I could vote for Bernie, and I ended up campaigning for him. I ended up making some phone calls for him, and then when all that kind of, happened in 16, I don't know. I just kind of felt lost for a while. We didn't know what to do, And a couple of years ago, I registered for the CNP. I knew, I think at that point I kind of come all the way around and find my balance. My wife and I, we've been looking to move out of California, but more importantly, out of the U.S. We were kind of looking at, maybe going to a different country. And the thing is, like, I really love California. I don't want to leave. I just want to fix this place. And it's the problems that we have. Well, sure, we have a lot of problems. Every place does. But I think a lot of those problems can really be solved on our own. And I think that a lot of the major problems that we have are because we are so tethered to the U.S. that we are not able to fix our own problems the way that we should be able to. Now, my passions has always been politics. I remember having conversations with my cousin when we were 8 years old about Reagan, and how we didn't want Reagan to leave because Reagan was the only president we knew. We were born in 79, so Reagan was who we grew up with. And so we've always been big into politics. I've always been a news junkie. I've always been into business, small business. That's what I grew up in. My father was a small business owner, and real estate. My father was a home builder. I grew up on a construction site. That was my playground as a kid. I got lots of pictures to prove it. And I ended up going into construction on my own, in doing various assets of construction, and then turned around and got into real estate, sold those same houses that I built. And my biggest passion is my family. I've been a stay-at-home dad for the last 10 years. I have 4 kids, and I've been married. This summer we'll be celebrating 19 years. So with that, I'll say thank you, guys.
Great, Joe. Thanks. Thanks, and thank you for coming back from the dark side. And
No kidding, right?
So that it's great to have you, and it's always great to have people with different views. There's a lot of people. There's a few people here also that were brought up in conservative families and stuff. Hal and things, and we all have different views on that. My best friend is a staunch Republican, but I love him to death. I've known him since a kid, so we don't talk about politics, but we come to common ground on friendship. So it's always great to have everybody with different views. So welcome again, Joe. Thanks. So we're going to move to Shankar. He has a kind of a topic to talk about water privatization that's going on under our noses right now. It's very important. It's a very important issue to me because the whole thing about independence to me is the word independence is to become independent from other states that own our electrical, anything where we're dependent on other states for our needs, whether it's environment, whether it's electrical, whether it's water, immigration, anything. That's really what independence means, is to be independent from anybody else. We can have partnerships, but not rely so that they can shut off, black out our electrical grid, and gouge us, week after, and telling us that the electrical is not, we don't have enough power or whatever. So this is kind of what's happening in parallel with water, and I'm going to let Shankar take it over and tell you a bit more about it. Go ahead, Shankar. You need to unmute. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Dan. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another exciting episode here. So let me start how I found out about this and how I got into this here, because the candidate roster, I remember that was my project that I'm working on. It is 2/3 done. I got a page posted up already on Instagram. Soon the rest is going to be up on the CIM site with the roster. So I got this list of candidates, right? A friend of mine and in the activist community, Maria Estrada, has been posting this thing about water. I'm like, what is going on with the water here? And she tells me, so I'm going to give you guys a brief lowdown on what's happening here, okay? So there's a government body from the state which was put together by 4 or 5 cities in Los Angeles: Commerce, Linwood, Vernon. These are very commercial areas. They put together a committee called the Central Municipal Water Basin. And what they do is just regulate how much water they pump from underground, okay? If it's not, we get most of our water from aquifers. If not, then it's the runoff from Sierra Nevada. And if not that, then we go to the Colorado River, right? So when we pump too much water out of the aquifer, the Central Water Basin, Municipal Water Basin says, stop. You have to purchase your water elsewhere. And then they purchase the water from whoever else is selling, okay? That's what the cities do, all right? This board is made up of 8 people. Right now it's got 4 people. And last year they made a rule saying that you only needed 4 publicly elected board supervisors, and these 4 can appoint the other 4 people, all right? So they can put their cronies in there, right? So they've put up 2 people, and those 2 people's positions are in hiatus right now, meaning it's at large because the district attorney doesn't like what they're doing. They can't just do that. It's just like a breaking Robert's rule. But whatever, they don't care about that. They don't care about that because these 4 people have elected to disband this board of directors. So on this next coming election, there will be no more elections for these 4 positions. Now this candidate roster, I was going to put 4 of us to challenge these 4 positions because these 4 people everybody hates. And we were going to win it easily because 1, we're not corrupt. We're going to point that out. 2, we have the backing of this water movement, of everybody that knows about this water. So we have the backing of them. And 3, it's lined up perfectly with the roster. It goes perfectly in with California independence. So that was the goal and the plan. Thursday, the state assembly called an emergency vote and passed SB 65 unanimously.
Oh no.
Only 2 people voted against it, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. I'm getting their names. Those are allies. It still has to pass the state Senate. And there is no state Senate coming up. But I have a feeling once we do submit the filings for these candidates, I have a feeling they'll have an emergency session and vote it through. Guys, we're not going to win this one, okay? There's no way. But here is the scoop. and here is where it screams America. This is where it screams, like, this is crony capitalism at its peak right here. I mean, the epitome of it. So that whole area, the cities that it covers, there is 3 major beverage companies there. Not to mention a huge textile industry. Textile industry uses a lot of water, but not as much as the beverage companies. The number 1 company is Coca-Cola. Number 2 would be 3 or 4 water bottling companies. They just bottle water for various different companies. 3 would be Dr. Pepper Snapple. And then 4, the notorious Nestle Waters. And then 5 is really small on the list. I don't think they're even, they are going to have a hand in this, but it's not big. It's Sparklets. They're not, I don't see them as a major influencer, but they are going to be one of the ones that they're going to control the water that comes out. Okay. So how the hell did Coca-Cola get this deal done? Right. Well, it's not like Coca-Cola's going to run the pumps, right? You're not going to see Coca-Cola pumping the water out for free for themselves, because that's basically what's happening. That's what's happening right now. Downey's giving them their water for free. And so is Commerce, I believe. So, but they're regulated. So once they pump too much water out, they have to stop and buy their water elsewhere, and that's what they're not going to do. So for a minute, I want you to imagine this. In about 15 years, driving through your neighborhood, and instead of the bright green mowed lawns, you're going to see stone gardens, like in Havasu or any desert city here in Southern California. Sinkholes are going to be prevalent, like Florida, just huge sinkholes in our streets, maybe some homes, because they're not going to regulate how much water comes out of the ground. Those aquifers are going to deplete. There's a big, massive hole under there, giant sinkhole. And the third one is, what, $8 a gallon of water? $10 a gallon of water? Right now, we're in a drought here and there. We're already in water conservation mode. Imagine it after all the regulations are pulled off. So right now we're working on a major press release. We're going to give it out to, we got to frame that whole story up for them, and release it to the press, and name out these the good guys, the bad guys, and everything, and see what happens to it. But this example, this is the first that it's happening in the United States, and it's going to be the example they use to do it to the rest of the state and then the rest of the country. It's very simple. I've got the law firms that are involved. I've got the companies that are involved. I've got the politicians that are involved, the boards that are involved, and the money's hush hush, meaning they're lying about it. The Central Municipal Water Basin says they're broke. They're not broke. They are not broke. They've been making a lot of payments to this law firm, same law firm that does. This law firm specializes in taking public utilities and making them available for private usage. And this is the first time they're going to do it for water. So they've done it with electricity. They've done it with gas. So here comes the water thing. So California, basically, I see Coca-Cola, an East Coast company, coming in here and setting up a corporation to pump water, and that's who's going to be, we'll be paying our bills to. So right now there's, like in that area, there's about 4 or 5 water companies that buy the water from the city and then distribute it to the home residents. Liberty Utility, Bell, Somerset Mutual, and then Bell Water. Those are 3 companies that you'll get your water bill from in that area right there. I don't know where their position is on this. Maybe they're for it, maybe they're not. They haven't done anything against it, so I'm thinking they're for it. I think they're the ones that are going to come out on top at the end of it. Who's going to get asked out, literally asked out, and have a dry out, Dan, I think is the word you're looking for, instead of a blackout. I think it's called a dry out when they say we don't have enough water. It's going to be that city first. So you're looking at Bellflower, Vernon, Commerce, Lakewood, Long Beach, And that's it, I think. That's a big swath of SoCal. But that is my report on that, guys. If you have any questions on that, let me know. We're going to need a lot of support in about a couple of weeks when we break this. When somebody actually writes it in a major press line and goes out with it, we'll probably need some support. I'm not sure how that's going to look like yet, though. And we can only what's that? Is it? So look at what happened there, Matt. What happened there? What do you mean rate hikes? Who's hiking your water bill? Can someone unmute Matt?
Yeah. Matt, unmute yourself, Matt. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, this was a campaign about 10 years ago to stop the transfer of the administration of Rialto's water from Viola, which is a private company, but they only had a year-to-year lease to another one. I think they called American Water Company or something, that they were going to lock it in for 30 years. Okay, and we defeated that. It's still administered by Viola on a year-to-year basis. So if they want to go look at somebody else, they can every single year.
Matt, so is that, so that's all decided by a board of supervisors, right? A board of directors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, Matt, imagine this: no more board.
We don't have to imagine it.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
because that's what's happening right next door in Strawberry Creek. We got nothing to do with that, but that's what's cutting off our water from half of Strawberry Creek is the federal Yankee Forest Service giving it to Nestle, which they've been doing for decades. Okay. About the only thing we got standing in the way of that now is the possibility of returning those forests to the Aviatom Nation, who already has the springs itself.
Yeah, Matt. So
they already have the springs, but half of the Strawberry Creek that feeds the springs they don't have. Nestle has it.
And Matt took me on a guided tour. I love that tour you took me on, Matt. You should actually form some sort of a company. And Matt knows the inland IE very well. He knows where all the spots are as far as the history of it and the natural resources that come from it. And he took me to where Nestle has been capturing the water for free for 30 years and making billions off of California water and native water until they got caught 2 years ago and ran from California, literally ran from California, leaving their headquarters here in Irvine with the computers on, coffee still hot. They booked it when the governor came in there to bust them with a fat subpoena. They all left, and now they got a bill that Governor Brown gave them in the billions and billions of dollars for back owed money on all this water that they stole from us. So Nestle Waters is fourth on this list of the consumption because they bailed, man. They got theirs and they took off. They got their hand in this one too. Coca-Cola is who we need to look out for right now, guys, because these guys are in prime position. They've been here in SoCal for 50 years, and they've shook a lot of hands of a lot of local politicians for many years, and they're one of the backbone industries for these cities. So Coke, man, this is a big guy to battle. I don't know how far we get. I have a feeling we're going to lose, but you know what? We may lose in this scrap. We may get our ass kicked, but I'll tell you something. They're not going to get away unscathed. We're going to get one sock in at least, man. Well, at least one punch in, and let everybody know at least what's up. That we don't just sit down and take it. So that's my finding on that one.
Okay.
That's all I got, buddy. And it's Hal. You got some data?
Okay, so Shank, anybody that's interested in getting involved or wanting to contribute something, get in touch with Shankar. Go ahead, Shankar.
Actually, find out if you guys can all find out who you pay your water bill to, and just send me the name of the company. That'd be great. I'm trying to actually find out how many of these companies are set up, because it seems like these are fly-by-night people that are like they'll stay a year, then they'll disappear. So I just want to know what companies are out there, if you guys don't mind doing that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Shankar.
Let's have Hal talk for 2 minutes real quick.
Oh.
Just covered most of it. Just 2 minutes, Hal, and then we'll go right to Hannah. If you're cool with that, brother.
Oh, I'm cool, but Shankar's basically covered it. This is probably not. He's right. This is probably not a fight we can win. But in the spirit of for our land and people, we do have to put forward an answer. So yeah, that's my 2 minutes. That did not take 2 minutes.
Thanks, Al. If anything, the only thing I want to kind of add is, Shankar, is there anything we can do politically before it gets to the Senate?
Yeah, hey, real quick, hey, this is my son AJ. It's his birthday today.
Hi, AJ, happy birthday. Everybody, happy birthday. They're just muted.
All right, so is there anything that we can do? Look, you know how hype this goes, guys? Does everybody remember Anthony Rendon?
Yeah.
So he's in it. He's got his little paws in it. And oh my God, that as soon as he said his name, as soon as Maria said his name, I got the chills, because this guy's has his fingers in every single thing Californian, man. Everything that's gonna make him a dollar or two, that guy's got his fingers in it, man. And I don't know, maybe Maria's just got a vendetta against him, but maybe it's rightfully so, because all he has to do in the state Senate is give everybody the nod, and they will all vote according to what Master Rendon says. And that's what happened in the Assembly, and probably that's what's going to happen in the Senate as well. Is there anything we can do? All we can do is get this word out and post it out enough times so people know what the hell is up. But as far as influencing these people that we voted in, I mean, I have no idea, man. Write to them, vote them out.
I get
whatever we do, it's great. They have the upper hand in that they can call an emergency and vote this thing through before November, man. So, like I said, let's just go with a left hook, man.
You're right. He's right. Anthony Rendon wields power in the State House, the way Mitch McConnell wields power in the federal government.
Yeah.
It's almost the best way to get Anthony Rendon out might be to have him elected to federal office. I mean, promote him out of the state.
Okay. Daniel,
hey guys,
let's
I'm gonna get going, guys. It's my son's birthday. I just want to let you guys know. Thank you guys for doing this. I'll catch the YouTube video on it later, Ben. But everybody,
all right, thanks.
Let's get the Cal out of here. Hashtag.
Later. Right. Thanks. So Marcus, you wanted to lead the. Oh no, we've got Hannah now. That's right.
5 to 7 minutes for Hannah to talk about a new petition that she has, and then we'll go right to vision statements. But I wanted to make sure that Hannah had a segment to cover the interesting thing that the California Liberation Movement has done recently.
Okay.
So we just what IC's doing. Here's an innovative thing from the PAC. 5 to 7 minutes, Daniel, and then we'll go right to vision statements.
Okay, Hannah, it's all yours.
Okay, let me tell you that I've been in June 5, 2020, we received the initial employment results, which covered up to May. And I don't know if you've been following it, because either you're, I think it's been really kind of been under the radar, right? But for instance, I discovered just yesterday that consumer spending in California is now 23% lower than it was in January, which is coincidentally also the amount of the unemployment rate for young adults under 25 is also 23%. And in June 31, the end of July is the last day, and it was when there's special payments going out, which currently are making unemployed people whole. Is the idea is to make they earn as much as they were making before. It also allows a lot of people who would otherwise be excluded from unemployment insurance will no longer have an income. So basically, we're looking at a major financial disaster starting beginning of August. And Congress seems to have of course, it's controlled by the Republicans, and they have no real interest in extending this program. And I might add furthermore that I'm also concerned because you're seeing the United States unemployment rate slowly drop. That creates a tendency to create inertia. The feeling of, well, we just don't have to do anything, it'll all solve itself. And we know Republicans just love to say that, of leaving a problem to solve itself. We saw what happened with the AIDS crisis and a few other things I could name, Katrina. They would all solve itself, right? So as a result, I realized that, hey, this is a chance we have, an opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity to find a grumble bunch of people and become their leaders, basically, their spokespeople, get them organized, get them speaking for themselves, and amplify their voices.
Joe Payne had a question for Hannah about her project.
Yeah, Hannah, I've got a question. Have you run that through anybody in any kind of legal sense? The reason I ask is you have a lot of B-roll in there.
Yeah.
Do you have the rights to those?
No.
You need to get the rights to those. You can use anything that's public, like anything that a politician says in public, you can use any of that. As far as pictures, though, you got to be real careful. You can't just grab something off the internet and use it in an ad.
Well, first thing, the images are from Unsplash, so that's fine. Music is also the same thing. The Supreme Court has made it very clear, though, that video can be used in fair use in order to comment about the content, and that's basically what it is. So I'm not that worried.
Then the only other thing I have is there any way, this is supposed to be an ad?
No, well, I guess so. We're gonna have a YouTube ad. There's a petition I've just drafted, just about to launch, and it's going to pressure the leaders of California to take action. It just says emergency action. I think I try to use it very subtly. Stop the creation of a new lost generation of workers, an emergency that California can avoid. Please do everything in your power to bring economic relief and reform to aid unemployed and underemployed California workers, including the use of emergency measures before the end of July.
Okay. Let me ask you the question this way.
Sure.
Who is the target for this video?
It's to persuade people to sign this petition.
Okay. How long is the video?
Total?
Yeah.
4 minutes and 10 seconds.
Can you make two versions of it?
You could. I mean, the graphics, I make a big deal out of the After Effects graphs, and that's 20 some seconds. But I found it very hard. I mean, I originally did have a 30-second video in my mind, but it's something that is simply not aware. I mean, Marcos will tell you that. I mean, it's you're looking at she found a video of Crystal Ball and Sagar or somebody, speaking on behalf of, I guess, The Intercept, basically. And they're like saying, hey, look, we got a major problem. It's just starting to come about that people are becoming aware of the fact that we're going to have a major disaster on our hands. As I point out in the petition, I mean, California already has the largest problem with homeless, underemployed workers. That's what people don't understand, right? These are people who had jobs just a few months ago. Now they don't. And there's no and a lot of their jobs that they used to have are going to be gone forever because of the fact that, they work for small businesses that didn't survive the the crisis. So I think that, the controversy I'm much more worried about, frankly, is this My Life Matters hashtag. But because we're focusing on African Americans, because we're focusing on youth, because the problem these workers are facing is exactly the same, almost exact same problem: systemic institutional racism.
Yeah.
Which,
as far as marketing,
and we got Martin Luther King to make a speech at the end. By the way, that's the second to last public speech he made in his life.
Cool. Guys, just
chilling, huh?
Joe, just if you have questions for Hannah, like specific ones you can get in touch with her, just to expedite the you know
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, as far as marketing, try to make 3 different versions of that. One 10-second video, another 30-second video, and then one full length, but honestly, you got to cut it down to like under 2 minutes. Otherwise, it's not going to be as effective as you want it to be. That's all.
Okay, you guys can talk. And I just saw that Jason shared on the chat that he does video editing. So you know, Hannah, Jason, Joe, if you guys want to get together about talking about that. But that's great to have a video editor on board. Didn't know that. That's cool.
Real quick, just to point out what's going on here. So you have Hannah with the California Liberation Political Action Committee, and she's talking about highlighting to people that there's going to be economic distress coming up. And I pointed out to her recently that the PAC has been saying things before anybody else says it. So the PAC came out with this idea that there's going to be a shortage of hand sanitizer. Hannah developed noticed the problem, developed the whole package to deal with that. And then about 12, 14 days later, I noticed other people talking about it. So here we go again. It's a month later. Here's Hannah with the PAC talking about economic taking care of Californians because the recession conceivably could be longer than anyone's seen. And literally days later, I saw Rising, which is a political show talking about this. So Calm PAC can identify problems in California before anyone in the media is talking about them. So you see what's happening here? You have our movement. We're radical. We're trying to build a reputation. If the packet keeps saying, here's a problem, and then mainstream news picks up on it afterwards, and then the PAC says, here's a problem, and then mainstream news picks up on it afterwards. You see the pattern? People are going to get the idea that you go to the PAC first to find out what's going on before you turn on TV. That's a gigantic reputation. That will obliterate any competition, and it will bring many new people in the movement. The PAC has already gained hundreds of new emails from people who never bothered to join the movement. They weren't going to have anything to do with us, but they liked the way the PAC presented strict policy guidance. So the PAC can bring in a lot of people who wouldn't want to touch this. And Hannah's already twice predicted things before the mainstream news. Now, the reason I bring that up is look at Shankar. Look at Hal. So they're talking about water being taken from a poor minority community that no one's talking about. Additionally, last year, they did protests of ICE officials. And, you know, besides Maria Estrada and the, Barrio Unidos and the other Latino activists in the LA area, it was really just Independent California out there. So here's Independent California standing up for immigrants when no one else was. Here's Independent California standing up for poor people and communities no one cares about. Here's Calm PAC pointing out hand sanitizer is going to be an issue before anyone in the media. Here's Calm PAC pointing out, hey, there's going to be an economic collapse before anybody else in the media. Do you get the point? When our CalExit groups or California independence movements say things before anybody else, point out an issue before anybody else, we are the leaders. Governor Newsom and the Assembly has to begin to defer to us because we said the issue first. So I want to encourage everybody, get out there first, say it first, do it first, be the first to highlight the issue. That's how we win. Independent California and Calm PAC are on two totally separate trajectories, but they're doing the exact same thing. Calm PAC is reaching out to uninitiated Californians and politicians and high-level thinkers saying, look, we're smart people over here and we see problems before you. Independent California is reaching out to street people saying, look, we notice problems before the rest of you. So that is the movement in two different directions, grabbing things before anybody else and saying, we're leading. That's called leadership when the mainstream news and the mainstream media won't do it. This is how we win. I'll stop there. Daniel, please take us into the vision segment.
Okay. So we're going to get into, this was, I believe this was this Joe's idea, Marcus?
Joe's idea.
Yeah, so it was Joe Payne's idea to have everyone from different organizations, all of us here, talk about what we feel would be the best vision, what we should be doing as an organization in CIM to get to the independent California. Meaning, what would we suggest each of us is the best way to achieve that? What we should be doing right now to move to get the movement into going into independent California. So I'm just going to give like 5 minutes to each one of you. I think Marcus and Hal wanted to stay neutral on this one, or is that correct? Okay.
Hal is giving a vision statement. Hal and I
Okay.
will doing it. Everybody else is willing.
Yeah, and so it's just to get a feel for everybody's idea, and then if we can get some kind, and again, there's not going to be anybody answering this. This is just a vision. Everybody's opinion is fair. We're not going to criticize. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to think about it, and then maybe there's going to be, some cross sections of thought that we all have, and we can determine what's the best way. If these thoughts coordinate with each other, so we can get like a top 3 type of actions that we can do that we all kind of agree on. But we're going to respect everybody's view. Sometimes somebody has a view, it's not pertinent at this moment, but it becomes that later on. We're talking Marcus, when we said America is broken, nobody wanted to hear that. That was a avant-garde thought at the time, and now even the media is saying that. So at the time, even the movement didn't adhere to that very much, but later on it did. So anybody that has a thought, it may not be relevant right now, but it could be later on. So we respect everybody's views. We're not going to really go and debate those views. We're just going to think about it. Maybe in 2 weeks, we'll talk about the best way, where we can come to a common ground on how to achieve this. So let me start with Joe, since he was the one to initiate that. So Joe.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for you guys for opening up this discussion. I think this is great. So let me start out. I think right now, California is not ready. And I can give you 100 reasons why. 90 of those are money. Okay? In order for us to get independence, I think we're going to have to play the long game. We really need to get in the game. Okay? The game, though, is played in a shark tank. Now, in order for us to get in there and swim with the sharks, we need to be a shark. That's the best way. So I suggest a long-term plan. What I would like to see is a 20-year plan, but with increments at 2, 12, and 20 years. I think that that there are elements within the CIM that need to be rebranded. When I go through and I look for obstacles that we're going to have to overcome, one of the biggest thing is Lewis's name. We have to scrub Lewis's name from everything we can, because that's going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to get hit with later on. So I suggest that we scrub, I'm sorry, Marcus, but yes, California and the CNP. Now I'm going to get into those. I think we need a new party, and there's a lot of reasons why. Okay. One is we need a party that can gain legitimacy. Okay. That's a problem that the CNP has had. And I'm going to be honest, it's unacceptable. At this point, they should have legitimacy, and they should have at least one person in office. It's been enough time, and something is wrong there. There's a kink in the hose somewhere that needs to be corrected. This new party that we have, it needs to be California mainstream. It's going to be fairly easy to put a wedge between the GOP and the Democrats, but we also need to put a wedge between the Democrats and Republicans and California. Okay? Another reason why I want to change the name of the party, at least, it goes into my next point, is that we've got to stay focused. We've got to be very careful with the words that we use, with the terms that we use, and the rules that we make for our organizations, okay? Right now, nationalist is not a word we should be using right now, okay? Like I said, stay mainstream. We've got to stay California-centered, okay? Now, what that also means is that we need to stop reaching out to other countries and other exit movements that are not legit right now. Okay, especially countries that are enemies of the United States. Putting an embassy in Russia, that's a horrible idea. That kills our movement. Reaching out to countries that are, or I should say, reaching out to exit movements that are not legit, that kills our movement. Scotland is a real country. They are vying for independence. Cascadia is not. They are not a real country, and that movement is fringe. That makes us fringe. We need to stay mainstream. Now, as far as if we shut down, yes, California, what I would like to see is Marcus start up a new leadership pack for the CIM. Now, what that can do is it can allow for funding to be allocated for different things that we need within our movement. That leadership pack can make sure that all those things are moving in the way that they should be. All the gears are moving. We're going to need committees later on. That's the kind of stuff that the leadership pack can help create. I think what we need to be doing, and especially with this party that we need to come up with, is we need to be reaching out to organizations like the Black Lives Matter movement, the LGBTQ community, and the marijuana industry, things like that. What we need to be doing is going to them and saying, hey, A, we exist. B, we support you because your fight is our fight. And then what we do is we ask them for candidates. Who would you guys run? We go to those candidates and we say, hey, can you get on board with our movement? And then we have something going there because it's organic. Those people, those other organizations are already organically going to support them because they already told you they would, okay? So then step 2 of that is we go to the different spots in California where there's weaknesses in the politics. You find weak candidates that they're just there because they're a Democrat and there's no one else to vote for. Things like that, right? We put those candidates that we have in that place and we fund it, we back them. We know that the community is also going to back them as well. And that's how we can strike, okay? Then another thing I would do is I would move this conference specifically to a dedicated YouTube channel. And I think maybe not immediately, but in the future, I would like to see these conferences as live streamed. But I think that's something in the future. Maybe that's something when it's maybe like a 4-hour kind of thing each month or each a couple of weeks or something, but with speakers and things like that. Something to think about in the future. What I would like to do is, let me back up here. I have an organization that I'm going to be trying to bring money into this game with, okay? With money, though, it changes a lot of things, okay? And there's certain organizations that within our movement that I think really haven't been held accountable. When money gets involved and all that, people will be held accountable. It's just how it is. It's politics. It's a dirty game, and it's not always fun, okay? But like I said, we've got to get in the shark game, right? Or in the shark tank and actually play this game. In order to do that, I think that we should all go through some leadership training in our organizations. Maybe we can come together and do something, maybe next year when we can all actually get together. This all being said, though, and thinking of ourselves as sharks, we all need to be ready to be that shark tooth, okay? A shark tooth serves its purpose and it falls back and it lets another shark tooth come up and do its purpose, okay? Every one of our leaders needs to be able to step back and let someone that's better, more qualified do that job. And it doesn't mean that you're out of the game. What it means is it gives you a chance to step up to the next rung of the ladder, okay? With this leadership training, and I think with looking for new people to step up and take the role that you've already got, it allows you to take the next level. and then we can all grow and really move this organization into something that it should be. Yeah, I think one thing I want to touch up real quick with what Marcus was talking about is like using the compact to find issues that the party can send that information to the citizens. That's exactly what we should be doing. And with that, yeah, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.